I did take on the task of painting this week, which again, I will make a public statement. I am not painting another room ever.
Don't believe it
I
for a
no, there's nothing left to paint in this house.
Yo.
This is the loud, quiet, living the empty nest.
Welcome back, everyone. Episode 51 of The Loud Quiet. Thank y'all for hanging out with us for season 2 as we're learning what it means to be an empty nester the second time. No, not the second time around. It's still the same, but just with a little bit of knowledge this time.
Like you said, it's our sophomore year.
Sophomore year.
We'll
that's
see
right.
how we do.
Okay, before we get in the episode, what was your, I guess because yours was a little different, but what was your favorite year of college? But you did 2 and 2, so.
I don't know. It's a hard question. I mean, I enjoyed aspects of all of it.
Yeah.
I probably my junior year, I had some struggles, just academically. Senior year, I'd met you, so then so
that was your best year.
Yeah, yes.
Well, I met you outside of school, so I don't
you
have to
already
worry about
done.
I have a safe place to answer that question. Yeah, I waffle between sophomore and junior year. There's really something really cool about the sophomore year where you come back, you know things, you got it, and you want to be back with your school friends. Freshman year, it's a lot of wanting to be back with your home friends, and I saw that in Tegan's eyes this time. Sometimes junior comes to mind because it's just the next one where you're like, man, I got this thing without the pressure and the melancholy that senior year offers. That yes, we got to go live real lives,
And I guess if you're because in high school they say junior year is the hardest because that's when you're getting ready to take all your tests and do everything, and I guess to some degree in college, if you know that you're going to be continuing on. Yeah. That summer again is kind of figuring out, okay, I've got to start, Tanner had to take the LSAT. He had to start applying to law schools, those kind of things. So, and Tegan will probably, if she continues down her path, be in the grad school boat as well. So, so I could see sophomore year being, you're not scared like you were freshman year. You have your group, hopefully. And so you're just kind of, cruise and we can see it in Tegan, she has a little more independence now that she's in an apartment and those kind of things.
I'm glad you called some of that stuff about a junior year because you're right and that's probably why I went straight to sophomore year because it's still, you're sitting there sophomore year and the end isn't even something you're thinking. Junior year, you're starting to think about it, but sophomore year. So what all that intro, which by the way was completely unplanned, I just thought of it as we sat down, is this is going to be a great empty nest year. So. Oh, sorry, Miso.
It is fun because one of our friends who are also in our life group, they just became empty nesters, and she's actually I'm going to tell her this when I see her. I'm really actually proud of her because she's putting out on Facebook. Okay, what did y'all do? What did people do? We're thinking about doing this. And they kind of did what we did our first weekend. They went and did some things that they haven't done before. And, I felt like that was important for us to do too. And so I'm glad that, and again, like we asked my parents, did you really think about it? Because it seems like there's just such a focus. Oh, yeah. Maybe because I wonder if it has anything to do, like, is our group bigger than their group, or like more, you don't think so?
No, because the whole baby boom population.
Well, but I just didn't know because now that people are living longer, they were also younger age parent. I don't know.
I think it's just our generation likes to categorize things, and we like to have a label.
And I'm sure social media has a lot to do with that because it's all over social media. But anyways.
And I would tell folks, so you said you're really proud of them. The number one tip is to listen and subscribe to The Loud Quiet. So that's what I would offer
She actually called out in her Facebook post and said, well, I'm learning from the Trailblazers. So I don't know.
Did she put a link? Like,
no, should not.
Mash that follow button.
So
all right. So what are we talking about this week?
Okay. So great. empty nest. What did we do all day Saturday? We were with Tanner helping him do something. This week, this was our first weekend officially empty nester, back to our empty nest life. I chose to start painting and redoing Tanner's
let's talk
room.
about that for a second. You went all in. It's like, all right, so he's moved out.
Well,
room is gone. Room is different.
Because we always complain his room is so dark because he wanted this blue color, which is what was in here too. His room was sports themed and and it always just looks so dark when you look up there. And so I was like, you know what? Let's refresh. It's time. He still has, his same bed. I did order new bedding, but it felt like it needed to be refreshed. He will not be back here much except for
random weekends, holidays, if there's an event.
So it's not like I changed it to a lounge or something. His bed is still there. He's still...
Well, give me time.
So you have other rooms that you can pick from in this house. So I was exhausted by Friday night, so didn't really want to go out, but we watched Bike Riders. Excellent movie.
Yeah. Do you remember the name of the actress's name?
No, but the acting is superb. Especially the female lead.
Gosh, that's sad, but yeah, she was great. And most of the names...
Well, because they were...
Most of these are unknowns to us.
Yes.
I mean, we're not movie files to the deepest degree, but most of these folks are unknowns.
Mm-hmm. So, Austin Butler is who they... that's why halfway through the movie I said, he's had like 3 lines. He was a major part of the movie, but...
He didn't have to memorize a lot of dialogue.
But I'm sure that they put him in the forefront because people knew him from Elvis. So, anyways, very good movie. So, yes, we enjoyed that Friday night. And then why don't you talk about
Saturday? So, we had said we were going to get Tanner a car for graduation of every... It's a common gift, and it was one that we were planning to do. And he had... over time been kind of doing some of the purchasing activity. We'd advised him on it, and there's a particular way that I like to go about buying cars that involves the deal is done before you walk in the dealership. And with the internet and everything else, it's pretty easy. What's a little different now is inventory was a little light, and so that with travel, with law school, his pace wasn't quite what we would want. And there was also a semi deadline of by the end of the month, because then we'd have to register his current car. So we're kind of hoping to save $100 by not registering his car. And somewhere in the night, or even when I woke up, we kind of talked about, we hoped that we could get it done this Saturday, but somewhere I was like, okay, Saturday morning. I got up early, did the walk, get all that, and then at 8:30 was on the phone. And so he gave me the information overnight that he had pulled in. I started calling and all of that, and yes, Saturday was a day where we bought the car. And I can get into more detail, but that's what we did.
And that's what excuse me, I was in the garage working out because I knew I couldn't do my long walk run, and so because I thought that maybe we would be able to start doing something. Yes, we were planning on going to his place anyways. But when I walked back in the door at 9:15 and I hear you on the phone with him, I was like, why is he up at 9? Why is Tanner up at 9:15? I know you, but I was just going, he's already up and ready, and again, this is a empty nesters. It's not really a tip, but we just felt like you want your adult children to be able to do adult things. Buying a car is probably one of the... People hate buying cars. It is
not set up for customer-friendly processes, right? It's hard.
And apologies if anyone works in the car industry, but it's just scary. It's a scary thing to do for the first time.
There's an imbalance of information more dramatically in the car purchasing process than probably anything else. You don't really know the value. You don't really know what the cost should be, so you go in with a horrible lack of information, and it's hard going into the process.
And we are not in a culture who likes to bargain. We don't do, like, I don't go into the grocery store and say, oh no, I'll give you $2 for these bananas instead of $3.75. You know, that's just not our culture. Now, when you're buying a house, you go back and forth, you know, but it's just, the car is just a different animal. So, you know, we felt like Tanner kept saying, I want to do it. I want to do it. But I finally told you, I said, look, I think we need to be a little more forward with him.
Because we kept saying phrases like, hey, I'm here to help you when you're ready, because we didn't want to intrude.
Right.
We wanted our adult child to do adult things, like you said. And it's okay. Even let's take the child out of it. As adults, we realize that sometimes we need help from other adults. And so I think it's sort of that mentality of, wait a second, he's never done this before, and he's trying, but this is a time to no longer say, hey, how can I help? But rather, hey, today's the day we're doing it. And part of it, too, is, and I'll try to be real brief here, but, you know, the way I go about this, and this is a tip that I think if you're listening, and maybe all of y'all do this as well, but I just, you go online and see what the current inventory is, and I know that's flexible and fluid, whatever, and you email, if you get the internet manager, great, or just email, but you never get on the phone until you get a price with the window sticker, a price and the detail. And then, like yesterday, we got down to 2 dealerships, 2 prices. One was $4,000 higher than the other, and he came back and dropped it by $4,500. And so and we'd never left our home, hadn't showered yet, right? And so all of that. And so I think sending Tanner down that path when he's already busy with law school, when we interrupted it with a trip and all that, he didn't get the progress that one could get when you're just, today is my day where I'm going to do that. And that's what we did on Saturday.
And I think you said a good thing. It comes down to experience. When you said, you know, sometimes you ask other people, other peers for, you know, we've been getting texts about, we've all been switching our internet provider, you know, and everyone's been talking about experiences, just like the thing I just talked about at the top of the show, asking for advice on what should we do, you know. So I think it's just, as our kids become adults, they want to feel like they can do the things that they want, and they don't want to ask for the help. So sometimes we still need to be more aggressive with offering that help in a more understood way.
And that's so that you're talking about the kid side of it. As we as empty nesters are trying to find that balance as well, because our appetite, our desire, both because you want your kids to grow, to thrive, and because you're like, I already lived my life, I don't need to live theirs. That is a tension that where do I stay as a coach? Where do I stay as an advisor? Even if they aren't asking me for my advice, but I've got the experience. Where do you? And a car is a relatively safe one, right? It gets a lot more difficult when we're talking about relationships, spouses, kids, right?
Yes.
So we're learning it too as we go along.
And again, it was one of those things that it was just hanging out here. And as I have talked about, I like everything in a box with a bow on the shelf. So we got his box, his car in his box with a bow. So
I gotta tell you, and I've said this, his new car. So he got a Civic hatchback. I never would have wanted a Civic, but they went through a redesign a couple years ago. This is a perfect young adult car. And I gotta tell you, I said it to you last night. I was like, I kind of like this car.
Yeah. And for those of you, I don't know if we've talked about the Cosby Show, but Tanner followed the dress like you have no money.
Well,
I don't care what he wore, but I was like, what do you have on?
And it turns out it was a Japan instructor. There was some T-shirts.
Yeah, but like one from something that had nothing to do, and old referee shorts and Birks that are.
So that may be why when we went in and said, "Okay, I love the deal that we have. Can you do it a little better?" There's like, "Yeah, I think we'll help you all out."
Okay, I'm sure. But I will say, man, that place was hopping. There were people buying cars left and right. I mean, and we just haven't, because my car, we just ordered and designed, and it was, hey, it's here, come get it. You know,
Right.
it wasn't, but I mean, that place was packed yesterday.
Well, and I haven't bought a vehicle for 24 years,
yeah.
so I don't know the process.
But you bought several of mine, so, but I mean, even our sales guy was doing two deals at the same time, and great customer service. Everything was very...
Yeah, it is. I will say this. So yes, it's still in spite of we had everything nailed down before we showed up, it is where time goes to die.
Oh, yes.
And so here's a tip. Pack water, pack snacks, and pack entertainment. Tanner and I were watching the Georgia Tech Florida State football game, because there were moments where you just sit. And kind of like a medical office, you also have to advocate for yourself. There was a time that we were sitting longer than it seemed. And so that's when it was, all right, we're moving to the next phase, whether y'all are ready for us or not.
And I even made the comment, for those of you who are friends people, I was like, I'm sitting here with my credit card and I'm bored. I was like, you're like, I got the check. Let me write the check. Let's go. And we even, but this car had literally rolled off the truck that morning. It had 4 miles on it.
No, it didn't.
It had 2 miles. That's right.
And those
after
were the
Tanner
miles
drove it.
that it drove off the truck
into the bay.
prep area.
Yes.
And then the prep area out for Tanner to do his.
Yeah.
So I had to take a picture. Clancy is not exaggerating because we went there to see one. We knew they had 2, and the dude they had 2 identical vehicles. And the other family had started working on the other one. So he's like, yeah, I got the one that just rolled off the truck. We're like, what? No, really. It just came off the truck today.
So it had a few things that were upgrades that it needed to go through. So we're sitting there and, then he said, well, it may not be ready today. And I was like, I really don't want Tanner to have to drive back over to Grapevine to come get this car. And, so he said, oh, no. Okay, well, I'm going to talk to my manager. We'll have it done by 5. So it was 3 o'clock. And he said, hey, it's done. I just need to run it through the detail and put gas in it. And he said, 20, 30 minutes. And y'all were like, okay, we'll stay. I looked at him and said, is this really going to be 20 or 30 minutes? Because I'm starving. So we left to go eat lunch.
Let's go get a little
lunch. It was actually kind of a fun day yesterday, because we were in Grapevine, which we haven't been over there since we lived over in Flower Mound. And so I found some local bar and grill. And I mean, you could tell everyone knew I said, oh, we're like at Cheers, because everyone came in and people were like, oh, hey, what's going on? And
the name was
R&J's.
I want to throw that because
the burgers were great.
Yeah.
Nachos were good.
If you're over there in Grapevine, and
prices were good.
You and I really, we strive to find the place that isn't the chain. Sometimes the chain makes sense. It's okay to go. I'm not anti-chain. Well, maybe I am. But we do.
I don't know. We did do Chili's. Not this weekend.
That was a whole episode. And so that if you're going to do the adventure, air quotes for those that are just listening, adventure out to Grapevine, we'll do something different.
Yeah.
There you go. There's the empty nest. If you're going to do something different.
Yeah, something that I love the independent places, and we'll get to that in a minute. But so by the time we got back to Tanner's apartment, it was 5:30. We were supposed to hang his diploma and do all this stuff, and he had plans to come to Frisco.
Enough, come back to...
Yes. So we just were like, no, we don't have time.
You know what that
so
feels
we
like?
just left.
I didn't think about it until just now. It's like Costanza, because
yes.
we've got the dealership, right? Of course, the dealership episode. No, don't do it. So go watch the dealership episode of Seinfeld if you want to. How George did the leave behind so that he has an excuse to
come
go
back.
So did we actually do the leave behind the diploma so that we have an excuse to go back to Tanner's apartment?
I don't think we need an excuse, but I was at least glad to see, it looks like someone lives there, but it was not just totally junked out crazy.
It didn't look like his bedroom here over summer or what we believe his college apartments to have looked like as well, based off of some pictures.
Yeah, except it's just one person instead of 4. But so then you and I left, and
Well,
we
left because I needed to go to the liquor store. That's the whiskey that I can get.
The Seagulls liquor
Seagulls
store that we went to.
When we were in our 20s.
Still there.
I'm sure that folks are probably tired of hearing this, but I cannot get over how it is every single time we go down there, it is flashbacks. It is just to drive on Shady Brook, to be on Southwestern Boulevard, to drive by Snyder Plaza, all the things that were just part of life. And now the Seagulls.
And hearing Tanner talk about these places that, they had a law school social Friday night, and then he went to some bars on Knox Henderson, and he said, some of the kids that he's met and are with grew up in Dallas or went to SMU. And so they're like, oh yeah, okay, let's head over to the Knox Henderson bars. And Tanner's like, I don't know. And he said, it is so confusing over there. And you and I are both like, yeah, it is. Even, we spend a lot of time over there, but it's confusing because the streets aren't grid like he's used to out here. And you're all of a sudden you're on this and then you're on, so.
Well, Tempe and Phoenix is, pure rectangle grid.
He's getting exposed to some of the things that we did when we were. So it's fun. We enjoy being down there. And so when we left after we went to Seagulls, then you said, oh, let's try Inwood Tavern, which we never went to when we were down there. It's been down there for a long time.
Since 65 we saw on the door. And we talked about that. I didn't know that Inwood and Lovers. Sorry for those that aren't in the area, but Inwood and Lovers is an area that has a lot of retail, shopping, dining, and I didn't do a lot there, like you said, in our 20s. But I remember one time going through there on the way to Love Field when the tollway was backed up, looking around, going, "Wait, what's all that?" And seeing Inwood Tavern, and thought, "Oh, that looks kind of cool. We need to go there sometime." Well, years and years pass, we finally go.
And I loved the juxtaposition of this bar. And this is the bar, if you're golf people, Scotty Scheffler went to the morning after he won the Masters. Right. So I'm sure he frequents,
I would imagine,
did as, a young adult. But
to be clear, that is not what motivated us to go there. No. We wanted to go there before that story. It is, though, that one where he went.
So, we pulled up and front row parking, which was awesome.
Yeah, can I stand you again? Yeah. Look at my parking space. Look at this parking space. We are never leaving.
And so there was an Uber in front of us, and all these women, probably, a little younger than me, got out, and they were all in these nice dresses, and I'm just sitting there going, what kind of place are we about to walk into? Then we realized they were going into the sushi place. But I loved the juxtaposition of this bar because it was gritty, but then they have chandeliers hanging from the ceiling. The bathrooms were spectacular. It was. And the red Solo cups. I was like, "Do you get your drink in a red Solo cup? Well, water, or if you're doing a gin and tonic." So
it was one of the most friendly places. So we walked in and
the bartender was
we weren't sure
great.
if we could find a place to sit or that kind of thing. And then it cleared out a bit because apparently there was a big party that was there. You could tell it's a place that is neighborhood. It is local. What we couldn't tell is it didn't give the stereotypical, and I want to be fair to folks that do live in the Park Cities. Not everyone fits the stereotype, but it didn't have the Park Cities vibe, and yet that's where it was.
Yeah, I actually looked at you and I said, we look more Park Cities than anyone in here, which I love because there's sometimes when we go down to some of those places that I'm like,
I just want to have a drink. I want to have fun.
And I don't want to be. And so I loved this bar. Like, if we lived down there, that would be our bar that we would go to. It was awesome. Casey, the bartender, was excellent. It was just fun.
Cheap.
Oh, yeah.
So he hands us the bill at the end, and I said, "Is that it?" Because we'd had 2 martinis and a gin and tonic, and not each, to be clear. And the bill was $21, and that's the price of less than a price of a martini at Fleming's.
And what I loved is that
Plano.
He came up. He wanted to talk to us. Like, he talked to us quite a bit, and he was asking about Tanner and being in law school, and he asked where he did his undergrad. And I love when he's like, "Ooh." is that tough for him going from ASU to SMU, like party school to, and I told him, I said, Tanner brings the party with him. And I said, Tanner had told us, he said this week, people were like, you're just so social. Because Tanner is the type of kid, if you know him or if you don't, we've talked about it. He said, cliques already forming. He said, I don't do that. He said, I have friends in all of the groups. And he said, people were like, how do you already know people in that person and that person? And Tanner said, because I go and talk to different people. He said, I don't need to be pigeonholed into one group. There's different things that I like about each of the groups. And that is one thing that both of our kids have shown. And I do really appreciate that about them. So it was fun. Just, this bartender, he was like, oh, I know, the SMU bars that the law school sponsors. And so it was fun being down in that environment and having connections, even though we don't live anywhere down there.
Well, the story you tell of where he's like, was it hard to go from ASU to SMU? He didn't explain his thinking at first. I thought he was saying, just a change in environment. And that's where I started to say, oh, no, we're from here. He grew up in Frisco. And that's why he said, well, no, I mean from a party school.
Yeah. And again, like I have said every time, any school is a party school. Because Tanner had friends that were sober at ASU. I mean, it's just, if you want to make your school a party school, it will be a party school for you. It's just whatever.
I'm smiling. There's like a dozen that are rolling through my head that like, no, those definitely aren't. But I'm not going to name them. But, I know.
Our kids go to two of them. Yeah. I mean,
your general point is absolutely true.
So it was just fun. And yeah, we had a really, good time. And you were like, do you want to stay for another? And I was like, it's almost 8:00. No, we need to.
Yeah, and I didn't really want to.
We needed to head back. We
were just enjoying it. And
it was.
I think it shows, well, I don't know that you put this text on there, but you had sent to Tanner, where our feelings about, like, we thought this place is great. And then, oh, yeah, we're back in the boring suburbs.
Oh, well, no, that's what I didn't text him that. But yes, as we, driving back, we'd eaten lunch so late that we didn't want dinner. And so we were like, well, let's get some dessert. And so we went to an ice cream place in Frisco, which is really good. But as we were driving there, I was like, oh, we're back to the boring suburbs of Dallas, which,
I did. Yes, it was nice to be on roads that were actually flat.
Wider Kramer lanes.
There were parking spaces. Yeah. There's pros and cons. But we do really enjoy our, I guess for now it's sort of fantasy trips into the more unique world of the closer to the inner part of the city versus the suburbs. But there's a lot to love about being out here too.
Yes. It was a great place to raise your kids, great place to have a family. But I think you and I are we've talked about it. We're just itching for something different.
Can I go back? You said something about the kids, and it is true of both of our kids, that they do such a good job of, they don't care about which group. And I'm thinking, like Tanner specifically, he's like, oh, I found all the EDM kids. But then he also, has met the kids from the private schools, the Ursulines and all that kind of stuff. There's probably crossover in that world. But he just, his category is just, are you human? And therefore, I want to be friend with human. There's a lesson for us in that as well as empty nesters, that as we've gotten older, and not just you, me, we, but the wider category of empty nesters, you get to where you kind of know what you like and what you don't like. Well, that starts to narrow down your opportunity to meet and engage and that sort of stuff. And I think that's part of, and I don't mean in like a judgy or, I'm not talking about, ooh, somebody's bad, but that's just not who I am kind of thing. No. It's, if that's an activity that sounds interesting, well, let's try that activity. Or that's a person that is into something else, well, I need to learn a little bit more about what they're into. That openness of the kids could be a role model or an inspiration to me, to us, to the wider empty nest, to just widen those perspectives a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good point. And I again, like I said, I love that about both of our kids, and I hope as parents, we have instilled that in them in some way, even
There it
though
is. It's us.
even though we may not have been that way. Or I mean, I did have different groups of people, and you probably
I
did too.
I just mean as you
But,
age, you just kind of
exactly,
get into
that's
your
what
comfort zone. Maybe that's it, not the judgment.
yeah.
That's your comfort space.
And that's what I'm saying
Get
is that,
uncomfortable.
we're probably not like that as much as
Yeah.
we used to be. Although we have been, I mean, like we were just driving yesterday and you're like, hey, do you want to go check out Inwood Tavern? I was like, okay, sure. So we didn't know what we were walking into.
Oh, totally.
But,
right.
The place at R&J's are probably not people that we would hang out with, but
Maybe we should.
Exactly. Yes. So,
Oh, goodness.
but yeah, it was just a fun, good day that got us to
Lots of things
do
to
and-
enjoy, lots of things to learn from the idea of, okay, but how do you balance being a parent versus a coach versus just watch your adult kid do what they do and learn from them on how to be.
And getting to hear, Tanner face to face tell us about his first week of law school and how exciting that was. And but it was hilarious. So we were coming home from the ice cream store and I got the alert on my phone, Tanner's arrived home, which I was like, oh, to his apartment. And then I was like, no, he's here, because I forgot he was coming out here to meet up with some of his friends. So, I mean, we literally probably passed him on
I think he was
the
behind us.
street,
Like
yeah.
he may have been. He probably was slowing down,
Yeah.
so he didn't catch up with us. I thought he was in the rearview mirror and
It
we
was
didn't notice
not.
him.
No. So, and we did offer, hey, come spend the night at home if you need to, but he ended up crashing at a friend's house or something. So, but yeah, that was weird seeing those alerts. Tanner arrived home. Tanner left home. It was just,
Why, yes,
it was interesting.
He's left home for good.
Oh, don't say that. Yeah. Well, okay, I don't want him to come back and
I was gonna
live
say, no,
here,
we
but I
want
want
him
him to come back
Yes.
and visit. So, anyways, but yes, it was a fun, cars and bars.
Cars and bars.
But
He's not the only one that we're teaching some lessons to.
yes. So, as I did take on the task of painting this week, which, again, I will make a public statement. I am not painting another room ever.
Don't believe it for a
No, there's nothing left to paint in this house,
You'll
for one
repaint
thing.
something, I
No.
guarantee.
Anyways. But, so, I would be done 5 o'clock every night, then do dinner. And so I would want to just sit. Well, by about 7:30, 8 o'clock our time, texts would start coming in from Tegan about cooking, about just anything, which I'm glad she's reaching out to me. I love my child. She's my little buddy, but this was the text that I got from her. Where do I spray the blue juice in the dishwasher? So
Blue juice.
Blue juice is rinse aid for those of you who don't know or don't use it.
I was one who doesn't use it. I don't know what rinse aid is until
The only reason I started using it is because our first dishwasher here was not good, and it was not getting, our dishes would come out smelling, so I started using it. No, I never used it before in any of our other
I don't know what
homes.
blue juice is.
But so I texted her back and I said, okay, you need to send me a picture of your dispenser. So she sends me the picture. And so then I called her because I said, it's too hard. And she's like, text me back, I'm eating dinner.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So what did I do? I sent her a YouTube video.
That's right. You outsourced parenting to YouTube,
Yeah.
and I support it fully.
I know.
You don't know it? You YouTube it.
And I was telling you, I said, when she wants to look up something about one of her video games or some thing from
Tennis
Box
shoe
Lunch
in
she
Japan.
wants, yes,
That's the one you're like.
she knows how to find that stuff.
The blue juice in the dishwasher.
But blue juice in the dishwasher, or I don't remember. She called me about something else, or texted me about something else. And I said this to you, and I'll say it here. They don't listen, but no, I said this to you. I said, sometimes I feel like her texts are very transactional of, I need help. help me, what question it's never, hey, what are y'all up to? Hey, and maybe kids just don't do that with their parents. I will say throughout the text thread, because she was asking me about the bowls we use to make salad, and I said, you have a whole set in somewhere in your kitchen. And, oh, awesome, thank you. And then she was texting me about something. Okay, great. So at least I get some good responses. But,
I think it's just expecting text to be a way that...
Oh, Tanner arrived home. Sorry, is he about to walk in the front door? I don't know.
But to this one, I think what...
Hold, please. Hello, you're on the podcast. Hello.
Huh?
I said, you're on the podcast. Where are you? I just saw you arrived home. Uh-huh, yeah.
Well, I was calling to give a debrief.
Oh, okay.
If you guys are recording right now,
Yes.
then I'll call y'all later.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
I didn't
We'll
know
call
if
you
you were
back.
about to walk in the front door.
No.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
driving home. But
All right.
Okay. We'll
you guys,
call.
you guys are going to want to hear this debrief. It's
Oh,
awesome.
okay,
That'll be great.
We'll
We'll call
you
you in a
back.
bit.
All right.
I don't think our listeners and viewers do. Well, let me say this.
There you
Yeah. Jeez. I'm glad y'all got to
Empty
experience
nest
it.
life with kids that actually enjoy
Yeah.
talking to them. So that kind of.
But I do want to say this about Tegan. When we talk to her, we get stories. So I want to be a
Exactly.
little bit
Yes.
fair to her. And I know you feel the same way. I just...
Oh, sorry.
You forgot to hang up?
I figured he did. He's okay.
To be... Texting is not her medium for
Yes.
communication.
Yes.
And so it does feel transactional because that's where she does her transactional
Right.
communication. Over the phone, in person,
Yes.
on road trips, over breakfasts, she talks.
Because she called us actually later and it was very chatty. And I know, this week has just been a fun social week for her. She starts classes Monday. She'll call
It'll be
and
different.
debrief about her classes. So
Yeah, we will get because we do. We
yeah.
always got a debrief when she's walking over to
Yeah.
the gym. We'll figure out the new timing.
Yeah.
But just like this one called, she'll give us that
yes,
call too.
she will. So
Well, I think we may need to get to this call.
I guess he has something exciting to say. Maybe that will
that may be
explain
the
why
next
where
one.
he was.
I'm cutting that out.
Okay. So, anyways.
Yeah. What a. We normally have a way that we end things, and there's kind of a flow that gets into us. This completely broke that flow. And that's the joy of the empty nest. So I hope you enjoyed this, The Loud Quiet,
Living the Empty Nest.